Welcome to Subconscious Conversations, where we take a look into the intricate world of the subconscious mind and how to heal the body, mind, heart, and spirit through its wisdom and guidance. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. As we are now exiting the main bulk of the holiday season, a lot of people might still be feeling pretty overwhelmed, stretched thin, exhausted, and maybe even depressed. And a lot of people turn to medications to help with those sorts of feelings because that's just our culture. But I think it's really important to talk about the need to address the underlying causes of whatever symptoms you're experiencing rather than simply mask them through other chemicals that have further adverse effects. But I want to be very clear about this right at the beginning. I know a lot of people rely on medications of various different sorts in order to be able to function. And I'm not in any way trying to judge someone for taking medications that they feel like they need in order to be healthy. We all have different bodies and we all need different things. However, that being said, I do think there's a societally based knee-jerk reaction to just toss a pill at every ailment. And I feel like it ends up deteriorating our bodies and our minds. And if you've ever paid attention to the drug commercials on TV, you've noticed that many times the side effects are exactly what the pill is supposed to prevent in the first place. Or death. Death always seems to be one of the potential side effects. So we have to be really discerning for ourselves and ask ourselves if we really want to risk taking these chemicals that might cause all sorts of other problems, including death, or if we want to actually tackle the cause of the symptoms we're experiencing. For instance, say you have high blood pressure or high cholesterol, and your doctor puts you on medication to manage that. Great. That's going to help your body get back into balance in regards to those issues. But you also probably want to greatly consider taking a hard look at your lifestyle choices that are potentially causing the high blood pressure and or high cholesterol in the first place, so that you only have to be on that medication temporarily instead of permanently. Because while that medication might help your body regulate that one issue, it's also having adverse effects on many other systems in your body. And if you continue down that road, you'll eventually need another medication to manage the side effect symptoms of the first medication, and so on. And then before you know it, you're taking 10 different medications just to sustain an unhealthy lifestyle. Now, if you choose the path of medications to support an unhealthy lifestyle, that's your choice for sure. But if you truly care about yourself and your body, you should really make an effort to try and resolve the problem rather than masking it with drugs. And this conversation goes for pharmaceutical medications, over-the-counter medications, and every other form of self-medication, whether that be through legal substances, illegal substances, or natural remedies. And that's one big misconception out there, is that if it's natural, it's safe. And that just plain and simple isn't true. There are many natural things that are quite deadly. And there are even more natural remedies that, while they might help your pain or digestion or whatever it is, it might also increase your blood pressure or overburden your kidneys or your liver or have negative interactions with other medications that you're taking. And oftentimes the natural remedies are way safer than the pharmaceuticals for sure, but most people don't really even think to do any research on natural remedies to make sure that they're not also going to have unintended effects that might not be safe for their particular body. And this also goes for marijuana. It's a very popular medication these days, whether it be prescribed or self-medicating. But what a lot of people don't take into consideration is how the different terpenes can sometimes cause adverse effects. So always try and do at least a little bit of research, whether it's a prescribed medication, an over-the-counter medication, or a natural remedy. And don't even get me started on these stupid TikTok and Instagram fads of all these BS gimmicky videos of supposed miracle cures. Again, I repeat the word discernment. Now, I'm all for widely sharing any healing modality or product that you find has truly helped you. Obviously, that's what I attempt to do through this podcast, so I'm totally into people sharing what has worked for them, genuinely. But this is where the discernment comes in, and it's not always easy. There are so many people out there peddling absolutely false claims about all sorts of things just to scam people out of money and or create a massive unsustainable marketing system. And they can be very convincing and sound extremely enticing too. And there are so many people out there who just lap up any and everything they see on social media and believe it to be absolutely truthful when most of it is actually fake. So seriously look at things closely with your critical thinking cap securely fastened, and that also goes for medical doctors peddling pharmaceuticals as well. We all know that there are genuinely good doctors who take great care of their patients, but we also know there are doctors out there who are only in it for the money and will do and say and prescribe anything just to get more money. You really need to learn to be your own best advocate and stop giving someone else power over what you put in your body or do with your life. And I realize I might be sounding a little judgy here, but trust me, I am not judging you. I'm no different. I've been on prescribed medications, over-the-counter medications, a myriad of supplements, self-medicated, and I've tried several of the gimmicky heal-all products. They never work. But now I'm going through the process of really digging deep, doing the work to actually resolve the issues rather than mask them. And I have reduced the amount of things that I'm taking, and I've gained a lot more discernment and a lot more respect for my body. And the more and more I work through the root causes of the problems, the more and more I can let go of the medications and the other negative coping mechanisms that I've built up over the years. And I can feel a wonderful shift happening inside my body as I heal more and more. And that's why I'm talking about it. I'm not trying to talk down to you and shame you for anything. I'm merely trying to point out what we all deal with and to try and encourage a more substantial change rather than just accepting the typical patch job. Now, sadly, most people in our society are geared towards wanting the magic cure, the instantaneous quick fix that requires them to do absolutely nothing. They can keep doing whatever they want and everything will be okay as long as they take this pill or use this product. But even more sadly, it just doesn't work that way. If you just want to do and eat and drink whatever you desire in life without any limitations, you are going to suffer the downside of that, no matter how many drugs or products you throw at the various problems that lifestyle creates. And if that's what you're looking for, then healing is not for you and you're probably not listening anyway. But if you truly want to live a happy and healthy life, you have to be willing to do the work required to make the changes necessary to heal the root cause of the problems rather than running away from them. And believe me, I know how hard it can be to make those changes and stick to them. But I keep trying. I keep learning how to connect with myself more and listen more to my body, heart, and soul, and that helps me make better choices. Now, I'm very far from perfect, but that's okay because I'm working on it every day. I'm committed to myself every day, and that's a wonderful thing. And that's one of the most beautiful things about this work is how much deeper of an understanding you get about yourself and your own individual needs. You learn what things are toxic for you, what things trigger you and why, what activities will help you thrive, whether you have certain nutritional or hydration needs, if certain body systems aren't functioning properly. You really learn so much deep information about yourself that it really makes it a lot easier to know how to make better choices and to take better care of yourself and avoid having to take medications in order to regain balance. But you have to actually follow through and make the changes that your subconscious has now made you aware of. And that's the difficult part. And I feel like I should also make a disclaimer here. I'm not saying that this work will help your body function perfectly and you'll never need medications ever again. I absolutely cannot make that claim. But we can resolve the underlying issues causing your body to become imbalanced, and then it can naturally start to balance itself out again. But exactly what that will entail and exactly what the outcome will look like for you, I can't say. And again, this makes me want to go back to discernment. Be very wary of any absolutes or guarantees or lack of clarity or tricky editing and splicing or any clearly manipulative language. If someone guarantees that they can absolutely cure everything that's wrong with you in a specific amount of time and you don't even have to lift a finger, it's most likely not true. Now, this is the easiest and most efficient form of healing that I have found that works for me. But that doesn't mean it's the only thing I need. It doesn't mean it will instantaneously make me perfectly healed. It doesn't mean all my problems will go away. It doesn't mean that the things that are right for me will be right for you. So yes, definitely hear people out when they're sharing what has worked for them, but try not to be sucked into someone's empty promises and sales pitches. And again, that also goes for the sales pitches of the pharmaceutical companies trying to promise all these wonderful life-changing benefits just by taking this pill or injecting this substance. Will also cause anal leakage, insanity, and death. I joke, but it's true. You very well may require certain medications in order to function, and you very well may never be able to get off of those medications. But you can still do what you can to minimize the negative side effects and keep the rest of your body systems functioning as best they can. But there are some medications that you very well may be able to get off of. Anxiety medications and antidepressants come to mind. As I've mentioned in the past, our society has conditioned us to feel ashamed of our emotions, and that turns into being fearful of feeling our emotions and expressing them, and that turns into trying to run away from them and cover them up. But that doesn't have to be the life that you accept for yourself. And again, I'm not trying to judge anyone going through a hard time or requiring medication to get through it or to balance out a chemical misregulation. I'm simply trying to spread the word that there are other options to try. I've heard people talk about possibly needing to up their antidepressant dosage because they cried last week. Well, yeah, maybe you had a lot going on and you needed to release that a little bit. That's nothing to be ashamed of or run away from or cover up with more chemicals. It's just what you're going through. It's life. It sucks sometimes and we break down sometimes, but that's just part of being alive. Don't be ashamed or feel like something is wrong with you just for being human. Even through my intense healing journey of rebuilding my life and rebuilding myself and reclaiming myself, I still have really bad days, sometimes even really bad weeks. And it's been such an impactful journey, but it hasn't been an easy one at all times. Now, don't get me wrong, I very much love my life right now. I have a wonderful man, 2 bonkers but wonderful dogs, a wonderful house in a great area, a family I love very much. There are a lot of things to be supremely grateful for. But I still have a lot of past wounds swirling under the surface. And I know how much I stand to lose if I can't get a handle on those darker issues inside of me. And as I've mentioned in the past, counseling wasn't working for me, and antidepressants don't work well with me either. But I was on anti anxiety meds pretty heavily, and I've been able to get off of those now, which is great. But I do still have some negative coping mechanisms, and I'm trying very hard to work past those. But it is a process, and I have to be patient and compassionate with myself throughout that process. And although this healing journey has been very incredible, like I just said, I still have really bad days and sometimes really bad weeks. And I call that being at the bottom of my pit of despair. And I don't know if I've just been pushing too far too fast with some of my healing, or if I've just had really dark things surfacing, or if it's just all the extreme uncertainty in my life right now. Most likely a combination of all of it together. But I have recently had a couple really bad spells where I'm quite frequently at the bottom of my pit of despair. And then I'll have a few days where I feel like I'm on the top of the world and everything feels wonderful and I have so much energy. And then I'll wake up the next day and I'll have all the negative things from my pit of despair falling down on me again. And I've had to get really open and honest with myself and with my family and say, hey, I realize that I'm on a very wild roller coaster of ups and downs, and it's probably really hard for you to deal with as well. And I'm trying my best to get a handle on it, but it's hard. And I have to really ask myself if I have a bigger problem that needs to be addressed with medication. Maybe I'm manic depressive or bipolar and I don't even know it. I don't want to have to go on medication, but I can't keep living like this, so please help me keep an eye on my behavior and my reactions, and let's keep discussing if and when I might need to consider seeking further help. And that was a very difficult discussion to have with my loved ones. And it's very scary to think you might have a problem that you don't want to admit to and that might require something that you don't want to do. But I really do honestly think that it's mostly just tied to the level of uncertainty in my life. As long as I can keep the hopeful thoughts of my future in my mind instead of letting the anxiety and fear of all the uncertainties take over, I feel much, much more stable and grounded and focused and lighthearted as long as I can keep that hope in my heart instead of that fear and anxiety. So I think it's just me working through some really deep, heavy things and dealing with big life changes. And I do have to say, though, that even when I am finding myself sliding into that pit of despair, it's been a lot easier to come out of it much more quickly and with much less damage. So that's a huge improvement that I'm very, very grateful for. But I do still have to keep a close eye on myself and make sure that I'm regulating instead of dysregulating. And I've been working really hard on more self-love, especially when I notice I'm feeling low, and that helps tremendously. But I don't want to be too quick to assume that I've got everything handled, but I also don't want to be too quick to assume that I have a problem that needs to be diagnosed and medicated. Because if I'm too quick to assume that, I won't actually heal those parts of me and I won't ever truly be free. And that's the point that I want to make very, very clear. There are many, many, many things out there that are so helpful for emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual healing. And there are more miraculous discoveries and innovations and creations happening all the time to advance the world of healing. And if you can find what works for you to allow you to unlock and release the underlying issues, you might not have to rely on drugs that are also harming you at the same time. And believe me, I know how awful and cruel this world can feel sometimes, and I know how easy it is to get buried under that pain and fear. But I also know how wasteful it is to let it consume you, consume your life, consume your soul. And I know what it's like to be going through the healing process to overcome all of the hurts that life has thrown at us. And I'm learning how to face it, how to release it, how to move forward in a better, healthier way. And again, I'm nowhere near perfect, but I am in a way, way better place now than I ever was before. And that is increasing exponentially, and it feels amazing. And that's why I keep coming back to talk about the things that have helped me heal, is because I want to help others find true healing for themselves and stop being duped by the snake oil salesmen and the drug dealers of the world, whether they be legal ones or illegal ones. So if you want to try doing some really deep healing work to get down to the root cause of your ailments, go to springseedwellness.com. Again, I can't guarantee that the modalities that I offer will be the right fit for you, but they just might be, or they might at least help open your eyes to something else that might fit you better. Either way, in my opinion, it's worth a try. Well, thanks for joining me today, and please join me for the next episode. See you then. If you would like to set up a session with me to experience this work for yourself, please go to springseedwellness.com. If you would like to find a practitioner in your local area, please go to discoverhealing.com. And please always feel free to reach out with any questions or specific topics you would like me to address. See you next episode.